I was thinking I might skip the video today and change of plans. Not because of her. She's just awfully cute up here on my little headrest, I guess. She likes the spot whether I'm here or not, but she's extra cuddly since we've been over here together. Yeah. So I was totally, I did the makeup and everything, and then I went into my office and sat down, and I was watching a little Keynote Tarot reading. I was really tired all at once. I mean, makes sense because I actually woke up at 7 this morning after going to bed at 2, but also being up at 3:30. So it's I've just been really tired, but then I got up and was motivated to kind of write some stuff down. We had a discussion in class last week, and there was something that I was wanting to share my input on, and trying to organize my thoughts is, if I'm trying to discuss something but have it fairly quick, it takes a lot of practice, and kind of bringing things in and narrowing them down on what actually needs to be said or not. And so for class purposes, it was yeah. She's ready when I'm ready. For class purposes, I obviously am not going to sit there for an hour and a half like I do in here. But so I'm trying to get my thoughts together. So when I woke up at 7, I started sending myself text messages, as I do. The chain that's literally just to myself, and it's so I can send myself messages, and then I can go back in and write them down later and delete them as I go. I started doing that a few years ago with dreams because I can have my phone in sleep mode, so the whole thing's grayed out and all that, and then be able to send myself messages and not have to worry about the brightness waking me up all the way, so I can go back to sleep after I'm done. Hey, dude, gross. So I was doing that this morning, and then I got to a point where I was kind of ready to go back to sleep, but it was 10:30, so it's I'm ready to go back to sleep, but at the same time, I don't want to sleep all day. But I'm really tired, and part of that, since I've been skating so much again, forgot how much that added onto it. It kind of wipes me out. Especially when the past 2 days it's been super windy, so it was kind of a little trickier. So even though I think the first day I did the second day technically I did 3 miles, 333 as I was start on that. And then yesterday I did 4 miles, which the day before I did 7. So it's yeah, I'm tired. Obviously, I've talked about how I want to do another 21-mile skate in at some point before June if I can. I don't know why. It doesn't have to be that time frame. I think it's mainly because I feel like things are shifting and I will be getting out of here in the not too distant future, though I don't really know how, or any of that. But as Annie said when I talked to her a while back, she said, your job is just to dream and to set the intention of what you want and tell the universe what you want, and then let the universe take care of how. So I've never been good at just turning over the how. It's I get stuck on the how, and then how's all the stuff going to work out, and then talk myself out of it because there's no possible way it possibly could, right? But everything else in my life seems to be coming together in such a fashion that it suggests that universe is in more control of things than I could have any kind of say so in what's going on. So I feel like I gotta just kind of roll with it, right? Oh, crap. So yeah, not worrying about the how, just worrying about the point that started me on that path, which was I would like to skate. Okay, sometime around June, before the end of June. Let's go for there. It doesn't have to be by June since I've been slacking off on the skating. It might be, it might not be. So far I've done one 21-mile skate ever, and you know, when I was skating all the time, starting in August 2023, that was when I started skating by myself outside and realized I liked skating by myself more than I did playing roller derby. So I dropped roller derby and was just focusing on skating outside and, you know, listening to my music and making all sorts of connections that I was able to make in that time. And I have not regretted it at all. You know, there were some things that I was kind of struggling with after I initially retired from roller derby, which I only played for like 2 partial seasons. The first season I played, I think, had it not been for a need of players, since it was the first back after the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have gotten to. I wasn't expecting to get to play that soon. But then, like, the day of the first bout, I was on the roster and was going to play and ended up getting bronchitis. And it's like, I woke up and I was having chills. It's like, I can't play. And then it was like a couple weeks that I had to sit out because I felt like shit. But then I was able to play the last 3 games of the season. And I messed myself up the next year because, okay, the first year, you know, it was 2022. In August, which was our off month. I mean, yeah, we didn't do anything in August. We had the last bout for the season at the end of July, August off. And then once we started back in the off season, you know, it was kind of slow moving. The thing was, in August 18th, 2022, I know that because it was my cousin's birthday. And yeah, I had this night where, honestly, if anybody else had been awake, I probably would have ended up going to the ER and getting checked out because I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. But I didn't want to wake anybody up. So, yeah. Yes, the doctor lectured me about that one after the fact. Because I did go get checked out afterwards, but since I told him, it was like I was having, it's like a really sharp pain in the middle of my back, and like my entire left arm was sore. And it's like, everything that I was feeling, it's like, it seemed like it was more often associated with like men's symptoms, which seemed weird in and of itself for me. But I think it was just to get my attention that, hey, something might be going on here, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to have to wake anybody up for this. And yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine, right? So, yeah. So I didn't go get checked out. Not that night anyway. When I was talking to my mom the next day, I was kind of like, well, I said, if you would have been up normal hours last night, we probably would have gone on a field trip, you know, because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. It started, I want to say, around like 11 or midnight, which she's normally up at that point, but she went to bed early that night for some reason. I was like, if you would have been up like normal, we would have gone on a field trip. And she was like, why? I told her, and she like starts to look all stressed out and everything, or panicked or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's why I didn't wake you up, because I didn't want to deal with that. So, yeah. I did end up on blood pressure meds that year because I had high blood pressure. So, which when I did, because my parents both are heart patients and have blood pressure cuffs, I did check that while I was having issues, and it was elevated. But then it's like every single time I checked it after that, it's like pretty elevated anyway. So I was on high blood pressure meds for a while. But again, 2022. So after that, I got really anxious and didn't try to get back to practice in any kind of a hurry. And it made me real nervous because then it was like, oh, I don't want to like die when I'm playing or something, just keel over on the floor, have a heart attack or whatever. So my obsidian's way over here. So yeah, like I was real slow about getting back. But then when it came time to get ready for the season, I found out I had missed so much practice that I wasn't going to be able to play. Whereas like the year before, we were short on players, and, because we had a lower number, I was more needed that year to play. But then the next year, since I wasn't pulling my weight on showing up like I should have been for practice, I ended up not making the roster for the first couple games. Because it was like, I think by like mid-March, you had to have so many hours in to qualify for the first game, which was, I want to say, mid-May. So it was kind of like you have like a couple months gap in between like actually having all these practices and going to them and then actually being on the roster. So then, since I didn't make the roster and wasn't able to play for the first game, which I knew ahead of time because, of course, we had to have like I said, I think it was mid-March, we had to have a certain amount of hours, and I did not make it. But since I knew that I did not make it, and I was all like aggravated at myself, then I started going to practice like all the time. And, we had practice on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. So I was going to all of them when I could for a while. And I got really into skating and wanted to make sure I at least... The big one was I wanted to play for my birthday bout, which it wasn't... The second year, it wasn't on my birthday. The first year, the third bout, second that I played in, was on my birthday. It was like my 39th birthday. And there was one on the 8th, on 2023. So since that was like right before my 40th birthday, it's like I want to like play that game anyway, just so I can say that I got my 2 birthday birthday weekend bouts in. And so I was going to practice all the time, right? Like May, I think I went to the doctor because I was having a lot of headaches. And I didn't see my normal doctor because he couldn't get me in right away. No, I think that one. No, I did go see my regular doctor at that one. I think I had a physical that was already set up, and because of the other thing, so I just like kind of left it and went to that appointment. The other doctor, it was actually a nurse practitioner on the other side of the same office, I think. That one was for a health screening before I started at this factory job. And so I went for headaches in May, and, of course, got my weight taken and all that time, or all that stuff at that time. When I went back in July and had the health screening done after I was playing way more consistently, and all this stuff, I don't know, like May 5th, I think it was. I think it was May 5th. 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 I think it was and hadn't started the job yet. Was getting ready to start the job. When I went in and I was just skating, but for the health screening, I found out, actually, I can't say I found out. I thought the scale was fucked up because I dropped like 10 pounds in like 2 months, right? So I thought the scale was fucked up. And it was like the other side of the office, and I just figured it was that and didn't think anything more of it. Until, well, and even then not right immediately. Anyway, that season I only played the last 2 bouts, so the bouts in July. And so I can't say I got a real full season in anywhere. But yeah, that was my roller derby fun. But anyway, I started working at this factory job and was walking all the time. And then I would that was before I started skating on my own. It was mainly just walking in the factory, right? And I was living on Dr. Pepper and fruit snacks, at least while I was at work. I had way more Dr. Pepper than, I mean, I don't think that stuff's ever healthy, but I was like living on it a lot, especially in that time frame, because the company that I worked for, they give you like free pop. You get like, I don't remember, I think they had cans. So I get like a couple cans on the shift, right? And all that fun stuff. So I was living on Dr. Pepper and fruit snacks, which is not good when, I had the heart attack scare the year before, but that's what I was doing. But I got to a point when I was doing that, walking around the factory, I was like, my pants started not being able to stay up. It's like, I'm going to have to get a belt. And of course, with that company, because we were like moving car parts, it would have had to been like a special belt, because they don't want you scuffing up the stuff. It's like a freaking, I caught it. It was a gnat. Gross. Gone now. Anyway, but yeah, and I was just walking all the time, so it's like, I'm going to have to get a belt. And then, I started skating by myself at the beginning of October. And I was skating, not as frequently as I ended up there for a while. I think starting off, I was kind of a little slow to start. Because it was still kicking my ass. I was doing like, 12 to 14 minute miles back then. And I don't know, I started skating all the time. And then the next time I went to the doctor, I don't remember what I went to the doctor for, but it occurred to me later that when I went for the headaches, it's like that was the last high weight that I had, because they were all high. You drop slowly. But it's like the next time I went, I dropped like 40 pounds. And it was like it all wasn't from trying. But I remember when my mom and my aunt and I were taking Gracie to school all the time. We'd go drop her off at school, and then we'd go get a beverage from the gas station, and I drink my Dr. Pepper, and my mom and my aunt were drinking their Diet Cokes, and I was like, this is a really bad habit, and I really need to knock it off. And I kept threatening to, but then, since that was the way we were doing things, it was like literally going there after dropping off the kid, it's more habit than anything. And yeah, at any point I could have not, but then we're already there, that kind of stuff. But at some point in there, I said, when it was time for me to break that habit, it would kind of fall away and it wouldn't be anything like traumatic or whatever. It would just be no longer interested in it. And it's kind of funny because that's basically what happened. Of course I went from living on this shit or while I was at this factory, and then once I started skating, or by myself, then I think in that time I took like a week. I think my aunt went to Florida. So I fasted for the week she was in Florida and did not have any of it at that point. And then it was kind of like, well, I don't really want to start back. I did, but it didn't get to the habit that it had been before. This is definitely not where I thought this was going today. But yeah, like, I don't know. It just like started happening, and then like the twin flame stuff got thrown in there, and like that came up in, I want to say it was like toward the end of September that I watched the movie with my mom, and then, that was kind of the point of committing my love and career lives to the universe for guidance, because I clearly hadn't done anything with them myself and needed some assistance. So then it was like, I turned that over, and then I start skating more. And then this Halloween bout came up, and I started thinking that it was kind of interesting, and maybe if closer to the time it hasn't filled up, then maybe I'll go ahead and sign up for it. And then, like, I think it was like a week or so later, I was like, clearly the fact that I'm thinking about it at all suggests that I'm at least somewhat interested in it. So if I'm somewhat interested in it, why wouldn't I go ahead and just do it? So then I went ahead and signed up to do it, right? And, I had a couple friends that were supposed to play as well. And then I think they both had stuff come up. One of them was the day of, didn't end up making it on time. Like, we were getting ready to start the game and she was supposed to be there and still hadn't got there. And I sent her a message, and like, she never got back to me until later. But it was like, I'm still doing it. I thought I was going to like, play with my friends, but, I don't know most of these people, but that's okay. I know some of them. And it was fine. It was actually a really good experience. And yeah, but that was like one of the first things. And it's like, well, since I've thought about doing it, then I'm going to go ahead and do it, because obviously there's some kind of interest there if I've thought about it. And so I did, and it was good. The weird thing was, and I don't think it was necessarily, okay, I talked about how, okay, first off, the Halloween bout was like October 7th or 8th, I want to say. October 12th was the day that my mom, my aunt, and I took Gracie to the zoo, and it felt like the twin flame was there with me all day. And it was like a really weird experience where you kind of feel like you're having like two completely different existences, because there's this one existence in the physical with all these people that you can see and actually interact with. And then there's this other level where stuff is going on and it feels very incredibly real, but at the same time, nobody else is aware of it. So, yeah, but after that, the next practice that I went to, it was a new skater workshop, and I went because I was theoretically going to help out in some way, and that's, I think, mainly just was going to be presence and, being there, encouraging the new skaters that, were fumbling around like I did the first time I tried. The first, when I did the new skater workshop, the first day of it, I was like skating and trying to talk myself out of it. And at some point I just stopped and was like, everything I've ever quit in my life has never been because my body quit on me. It was always I quit myself in my head long before I ever got to the point where my body failed me. So once I had that realization, I stopped trying to talk myself out of it and started doing the thing anyway, so I was able to kind of use that to, keep people, to encourage people along the way. It's like, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But yeah, I mean, especially when you start skating at like 38, right? So, I mean, I'd skated when I was younger. I got really into like the skating parties that we used to have when I was in grade school. But then once those ended after elementary, it just kind of fell off, and I'd skate once in a great while, but that was it. But yeah, then roller derby ended up being on my bucket list because I don't remember what year Whip It came out, but I remember I got really into that movie and the idea of roller derby, and then found out, because I looked into it a little bit, that there was a roller derby group not too far away from me, and it actually, I think they were practicing in Fishers back then, which probably would have taken about 35 minutes to get there. It was actually the ice rink that my brother had played hockey at for a while, and I talked myself out of it at that point in time. But I had like this bucket list of things I wanted to do before I turned 30. I'm pretty sure I didn't do any of them. But then when I was approaching 40, then it's like, well, I had this thing on my bucket list back then, so maybe that means I should go ahead and try it now. Because then they had moved from the place in Fishers to this place down the road that's like, like a 12-minute drive from my house to the warehouse. And like the first time I went, I was trying to talk myself out of it the entire way over there. And it's like, this is so close, I can't. I have to do it at least once, right? So I went and did the thing, and then realized I always quit myself in my head long before my body ever quit me. And then it's like, then I started getting into it a little more. And then, I started connecting with people and, decided to take a chance and befriend a whole bunch of people on Facebook that I didn't know. But it did help us get to know each other. So there was that. But yeah. And I don't know how many times I told them, like, look, if this was any further than 12 minutes away, I probably would have talked myself out of it a long time ago, because that's just how I was. But since it was so close, then it's like, yeah, I can't do that, right? The other place, I definitely would have. But then too, that was before my ex, because I met him before I turned 30. So, and yeah. On the one hand, I'd kind of wished that I had done roller derby first, because I feel like a lot of those people would have met him and been like, girl, no. And on the one hand, I needed that. On the other hand, I did get that from two people that were not the two people I needed to hear it from, So like my mom and my best friend at the time gave me the opportunity to walk away from the wedding idea the day of the wedding, and because I needed it to come from either my dad or my brother at that point in time, I think the roller derby group would have sufficed. But yeah, that was not how it was meant to be. And roller derby was necessary for helping me to start putting the pieces back together after the divorce in a lot of ways. So there's that. Yeah, I wasn't going to talk about roller derby. Okay. But I actually was going to start this with today, because now I don't even remember how I got to that point, right? But like, I was literally ready to fall asleep in my chair in the office. And I had, like, my feet were cold, but I was sitting all curled up in my chair and had a blanket around me, and it was nice and toasty, and it was really comfy. And it's like, man, if I didn't have my contacts in, I would just fall asleep right here. But I have my contacts in, so didn't do that. But yeah, I went and was getting ready to eat something, and my mom and dad were getting ready to leave to go to my grandma's house next door, right? And my dad had been in the room sitting at the table waiting on my mom. My mom shows up, she's putting her shirt on and whatever, and gets this big grin on her face and says, "Want to go over to grandma's?" And I said, "No." And she says, she's in some kind of mood again. She just gets this look on her face and says, "You really don't like your grandma anymore, do you?" I said, "It's not that at all." I said, "I don't like spending time with my grandmother because she is one of the most negative people that I know. That alone is why I don't want to go over there." I said, "Because if I end up over there, she's going to be in a bad mood, trash talking everything like she always does. And I'm going to leave feeling like crap like I always do, just because because I went over there. So no, I don't feel the need to go visit her so I can be affected by her negativity." And I think, seeing as now I also don't like spending time with her and my father anymore, I think she caught on to the fact that they're also on the top of the list of people I don't like spending time with because they are so negative. Because I just said one of the most negative people. And yeah. And just the way she looked at me, it's like, when she made the comment about me not liking my grandma, it felt like every time my grandfather was trying to tear me down and remind me that I didn't belong in the family. And all the time she's done that too, but it's like that specific glimmer in the eye reminded me especially of my grandfather. Then it also reminded me of the bullies that used to, look at me like they knew something about me, that kind of a thing. And, oh God. When I was in my guard unit, we had a drill weekend in Michigan City with a PT test. And it was after the brain injury, and I was not doing a whole lot of exercising and all that stuff at all in that time frame, and that PT test did not go well. We had a new lieutenant attached to our unit that reminded me of all the bullies throughout my life, especially the cocky, athletic types in particular. And yeah, I say that my grandfather wasn't. I don't know if he was athletic in his younger years, but he was all about, watching basketball and football and acting like the bullies at, in my school time. So then this lieutenant shows up and he just looks at me the same way, and I just like quit on the whole PT test. It's like I was just done. And it was like, everything about that dude reminds me of Chris. And, as a reminder, Chris being the one that he was in my brother's class, and he was a pain in the ass to my brother as well. But he kind of always set it on us, especially, I think, because we were around him the most when, my mom used to babysit him when, in the years that his dad really didn't want anything to do with him, right? So it's like I always saw him and saw how he treated me and just saw this wounded little kid whose dad didn't want anything to do with him, right? Um, he showed back up very briefly in my life when I was 30. I'd just gotten married, and his mom, who was one of my mom's best friends, had a massive heart attack and died. And at her funeral, they had a service at the United Methodist Church that we used to go to. And my ex commented on how he's never seen so many people in one place before, and let alone for one person. And, and of course, we go up to talk to the daughter. She was like, I want to say she was like 8 years younger than the son was. Of course, we liked her. Her brother was a dick. Even at his mother's funeral, that dude was looking at me like he knew something about me. And I was just kind of like, fuck you. And my mom was talking to his wife, and they had, I think they had a daughter, and then they had a set of triplets where it was 2 girls and a boy. And his wife was just going on and on to my mom about how the boy was her favorite. And it's like, oh boy, another one of those. She's setting him up right there to be just like his daddy. Oh, goody. More perpetuation of the toxicity in the world coming. You can already just see it right there. And, I remember kind of thinking about, karmically speaking, that dude was one of my biggest bullies. And I always felt sorry for his daughters because he was their father, first off, but also because that dude had to have all sorts of karma connected to him because of how he treated, me. And I know I'm not the only one he had treated like shit, and yeah. Birds making weird noises. I think I should probably sleep chirping again. But yeah. I don't know. Like, my mom looked at me like that when she was getting ready to go out, and I was just like, nope, don't hate anybody. It's like, don't want to be around them. And it is perfectly okay to not want to be around my grandmother because she is one of the most negative people I know. It is okay to not want to be around my mom and dad because they are among the most negative people I know. It is, this whole thing is about me finding my peace and being able to find and establish a life I can be happy with, where I'm not just getting pulled into everybody else's shit because they don't want to have to deal with it. So they're forever perpetuating it by, treating those who are here to help heal the painful parts of life. Okay, goes back to that. If you give the wrong or allow the wrong people access to your energy, it's basically like hooking yourself up to a dead car battery, right? They're literally just sucking the life out of you because they don't want to do their own work, but they can thrive in some kind of way on your energy. So it's like, I'm done with giving my energy to the dead car batteries of the world. And I think that was part of what I was thinking through with this stuff this morning with my writing. It was like, okay, so we were talking about sound, and of course, somebody was talking, I think it was like ice formations or something, that, like, there was a scientist that played different sounds, and into water, and like the ice formations would, like, when it was, or words, stuff. I know love was one of the words that was used, but I think there was also like, like classical music type things and that kind of stuff. And it was like real pretty kind of shapes and whatnot. And and then of course they were talking about, like, on the other end of that, you get like the really erratic and chaotic type formations. And somebody in the class was talking about metal music, and of course that's where kind of I would like to contribute to the class conversation on that point with some things, because it's like there's a whole lot in me that's like I feel like I have a lot I can offer on this point, but at the same time the organization of the thoughts that's kind of where it comes to be I'm trying to figure out how I can, what points to put together for that conversation. Excuse me. Because that's like one of the biggest things I've noticed with this, which there again, my wall chaos, right? And like this wall and these two walls that are too busy. They got a bunch of stuff on them, so it's like you can't really see it unless I like get up and move stuff. But like that wall is like a prime example of the abundance of chaos. And I've talked about how when I first painted in here, I didn't skate when I did the last 2.5 walls. I know, we'll do that in a little bit. She can't understand why I haven't prioritized her today. We did not go on our little journey to the cemetery. We may. I was kind of debating on skipping it, but nope. Just don't get excited. Now they're both looking at me. But anyway, well, like with these 2.5 walls, I did not skate before I painted them because I hadn't planned on painting them to begin with. But when I liked this other wall, or like the other wall and a half, and how it turned out, and okay, Zibby's in front of the door, so I won't show all of it. But like this, it's like way more toned down and less. Hey, I was talking about that thing yesterday. That's the lovers thing that I was talking about that I wanted just because I liked it, and so I bought it. Okay, but this is much different than this, right? So that's kind of like where I was going with it, because, okay, when I skated, like there was a lot of thought that was going into like this other wall that my tree wall, and the splatters are much less chaotic. And I don't regret anything that happened with the painting process because I needed it. And it, like I've said, it's helped me to make a lot of connections that I wouldn't have been able to make before. I'm like in the wrong spot for the lighting. Kaz is licking my foot. But yeah, it's like the first wall and a half, I loved how it turned out so much that I decided I was going to do that around the rest of the room as well. But then I didn't want to, didn't want to stop and skate. You coming up, ZB? Nope, she's going to lay down there. Had to offer. She sometimes get up here, but not a whole lot of going out of her way to do so. But yeah, when I didn't skate, I got to see like how much of the chaos ended up on the wall rather than left outside when I was skating. And so like that's kind of been, it's a big reference point. Like I refer back to that all the time. And no, I don't need your input right now. Thank you. He wants to give his input. He plopped. Well, he wasn't going to plop. I pulled him over. But yeah, like thinking about that, it's like with the music that we were talking about the other day, and like just the sound frequencies. It's like that guy was talking about how could anybody find that relaxing? It's like it's literally. I think what's chaos serves as more. Stop. I'm gonna throw you out. I will throw you out of here. Maybe I'll get a carrot. Cool. I'm so glad I encouraged her to bring a carrot on the bed. Anyway, but it's like I feel like with the music, it's. See, my brother and I were talking about it the other day, and we listened. I mean, he listens to darker stuff than I do. I'm more metalcore. He's more like black metal. And we were talking about it, and he was talking about like different there's a lot of slurping going on over there. Like themes of suicide on music that he's listened to, and he finds it relaxing and all this stuff. It's like I feel like what it is on that, like the music end of it is, of course, there are a lot of various, intensities or levels of it. But it's like, Taz, I feel like it's something about the awareness that somebody else out there understands in some kind of way what I'm feeling, right? The pain of existing. And, since like, I know that's something I've struggled with like for a couple decades plus. So yeah. Finally stop slurping. But it's like listening to the music, especially darker music. It's like it feels like somebody else gets the shit that I've been feeling. And maybe I'm not alone in this painful existence after all. Because like that's one of the biggest things, like the whole suicidal ideation. It's like, would anybody even notice if I wasn't here, kind of a thing. And I talked about how I told my brother about this the other day, because initially he didn't want to agree with it, but then after I told him some other stuff, he's like, well, maybe I can see what you're talking about. But like with my mom, there was a day when I was in high school that she was a lunch lady. She was talking to some of the other lunch ladies, and they were talking about somebody that had committed suicide, and she was just gets all deep and, oh, well, you just never can tell what somebody is going through. And I remember looking at her and feeling like if I went through with the suicide attempt, the whole thing plagued me for most of my life because, largely because my family used me as the fucking scapegoat, right? So, and, okay, Dr. Ramani talks about, like, family mobbing and how basically entire groups of people will kind of turn on one person as a means of getting them to fall in line with the family system. That's they're the only ones that can see that it's a problem. So, they basically get bullied into submission, kind of a thing. It's like, I know this well. But like when I heard my mom talking to the lunch ladies about that, and I just remember thinking that she would take that and milk it for all it was worth. If I actually went through on committing suicide and she got the opportunity to play a victim, she was going to, milk that for all it's worth, the rest of all the days of her life at that point. And I just remember looking at her and thinking, I cannot let that happen. I will not allow my death to be the thing that brings you this, whatever, the never ending supply, essentially, of attention because her daughter committed suicide or whatever. It's like, I can't do that. That didn't mean that I didn't, that at that moment I stopped struggling with it by any means, because I didn't. That was like the ongoing thing that was kind of always in the back of my mind. And, I spent a lot of time trying to navigate that whole journey. And, it literally took me going through the toxic connection with my ex and starting to choose myself over allowing him to run over the top of me for me to be able to get out of there. And that took Tyler's death to give me something to start working through, because his death was not suicide, but when he died, basically it made me look at, it was like, okay, this is somebody that was very important to me, and we were both the section leaders of the drum line and got to do the state championship and the world championship thing together, right? So we had that shared thing that was always, there was two of us in the leadership position, specifically. And he was always really important, like throughout the years of my life. Like I can even remember him. Now he did make a crack about trying to copy off of my paper in like third grade. And I just like gave him a dirty look and was like, no. And like, he's just kind of like, like we weren't really good friends back then or anything. Of course, my world was falling apart because my cousin was being a dick and telling everybody, or, spreading rumors to try to make himself seem like he was real big and important and make me feel like absolute shit, right? And everybody else believed the absolute shit about me. So, it's like Tyler, we had a lot of classes together. Like, I think we were in like kindergarten. I don't remember first grade, but then there was, I think maybe it was first and second, we weren't in the same grade. And then third, we were back in the same grade. And something about the connection, like I didn't dislike him by any means, but he wasn't real big into the gossiping bullshit like a bunch of the other people were. And then sixth grade band came around and, we had another common ground. We found other things that we had in common. Like we both had older siblings. He had an older sister that was the same grade my brother was. And so there was another connection, right? And Paul, of course, was in there as well, and same connections because his sister was also in the same grade as our older siblings were. But when Tyler died, I finally was able to step back, and it's like, look, whatever's on the other side of death, he probably knows anyway. So, I just started writing letters to him because I figured he already knew whatever I would have had that I would have not owned up to or not felt safe enough to talk about in person. So it's like I was able to start writing stuff down and making a whole lot of connections. So his death gave me the space to be able to start healing, which was the thing that gave me the room to start choosing myself and pushing back against my toxic ex situation with all his narcissistic glory. But then, oh God, once I got out of that situation, and it's like, okay, now how did I get there to begin with? And then realizing it literally all comes back to the family situation. It's like, fuck's sake, man. How deep does this go, right? Cause damn it. And then it was like the whole twin flame thing came along, is literally the sort of candle in the darkness. 5555 as a start on that. Excuse Bugs Bunny down there. Yep, there's a little carrot. Anyway. Yeah, I kind of need to vacuum over there. Sorry. Oops. Oh well. But he's on my Tazzy, so who cares? But yeah, it's like the twin flame thing, the Tyler thing made space to start choosing myself again, which made space to be able to get out of the toxic marriage situation. But then it was like the twin flame thing had to come along, because like that, once you start approaching the deeper layers and like the family shit and how deeply this actually goes, is no wonder there's been so many points in my life where I just wanted to quit and not go on, because this is freaking exhausting. And I'm glad that I have like Dr. Romney and Richard Grannon, like their videos that they post talking about narcissism and everything. I read Dr. Romney's book, Should I Stay or Should I Go, after I left my ex. And then it's like, I knew that my mom was in there on the narcissistic tendencies and whatnot, but I still wasn't fully ready to commit to looking at that sort of stuff, just because it was, God, just the whole divorce process was just so exhausting and in and of itself. And, especially because I come from a family, my grandfather's all about appearances. And God, there is a newspaper article on the counter in the kitchen by the garage door that I saw the other day. And it was for the local paper back at, like, I think my grandparents' 40th wedding anniversary or something. And hearing them talk about love, it's like, y'all don't know shit. Y'all are just stayed together to make it appear like you had shit figured out, and because at least we're committed to each other, but yet at the same time it was literally committed to making each other miserable, because nobody was happy in that situation. And then, like, the kids, I mean, they might tell you that they knew their parents loved each other and whatnot, but there ain't nothing loving about that whole fucking situation. It was enabling, flat out enabling, and the full toxicity of that whole path. I had this thought earlier. I mentioned yesterday that I talked to my aunt, the middle sister, about a lot of stuff yesterday that's going on in my world. And I was thinking, I mentioned that, like, I don't tell her a lot of stuff all the time, but I feel like she gets really interested in hearing what I have to say when I do share stuff. And especially if I have a whole lot of things that, kind of connect it to other things that are going on. Like, just the stream of events with the twin flame situation and how there seems to be a little bit of a back and forth, and this thing keeps pulling me along, whether I go along willingly or not. It's like pulling me along. Ready or not, it's time to go work on this stuff now, right? But like there have been things that have come up along the way that suggest that, okay, first off, as much as my life has changed in the past several months because of this connection, it cannot be only me aware of what's going on. Like this can't, how much there is like shifting me along the way. It's like, this can't be a one-sided thing, because I mean, that'd be all sorts of fucked up. And I honestly, I mean, that's the point of the twin flame connection. I think this one in particular, because I set the intention that we wouldn't be like the ones who come together, go apart for a while, come together, go apart for a while. And, you know, that we wouldn't have to do that, I set the intention that we would do whatever work needed to be done so that when we do come together, it can just stay that way. And like, we don't have to go our separate ways several times along the way to heal from things, because we've already essentially done that, right? And it's literally his energy, like all wrapped up in pulling me along on this whole journey. So like when I talk to my aunt about this stuff and like connect the dots for her, she likes seeing it because of course she's big into she's big into God, so, right? She's into the whole church thing. And of course we look at God slightly differently, I think, but at the same time, not completely differently. She's just a little more, yay, Jesus, and I'm a little more, you have to do the work yourself. He didn't do it, so you didn't have to do the work. He did what he did to show you it's possible to do the work. And it fucking sucks. But possible and necessary. So yeah, like when I was talking to her, it was like, I trust her. And I know, even though she is, at the end of the day, basically supply for my mom and her narcissism in some kind of way, it's not in the same way that my mom was to my grandpa. You know, my mom was like very big on the, if you have secrets, it means you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. But really, all that means was you end up telling the family things they don't need to know because it might make grandpa look bad. And then they just make fun of you behind your back. That's literally all it does, right? And so when my brother made that connection the past year, unfortunately, the past year, me at 41, him at 44 now. So yeah, it's like, that's literally all they've wanted, was to take the times where you fucked up and turn it against you and make you feel like you're some kind of like royal fuck up in all extremes of the word, and can't do anything worthwhile. See, in his therapy group, they did something where they were talking, or they had to think of somebody, like the first person that came to mind kind of a thing, and then what this person did for them or meant for them. And what he said was his mother-in-law was the first person that taught him it was okay to make mistakes and then get back up and try again. It's like, yeah, a lot to be said for that. It's like, because our family, it's like mistakes were like the end of the world. If you make grandpa look bad, then oh my God, you know. And then that goes back to make mom look bad too, because she was all in on enabling my grandfather, and you know, basically just tried to step into his role. She's not doing that very well, or nobody's going along as willingly as they did with him. But yeah, there's a whole, goes back to that baby, to be honest. I get so tired of people throwing pictures of the baby in my face. It's like, yep, baby grandpa, leave me alone. Because I definitely feel like the patriarch died finally. But then I am confident was reincarnated in this itty bitty little baby, which no fault of the babies. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like it was one of those, the cords were so tightly connected to everybody that, like, basically the family just jerked him back into another body right away because, hey, there's this vessel cooking in the cousin, right? So, you know, she ends up, ends up giving birth to Grandpa round two. Well, I mean, these won't have been his only existences by any means, but he's definitely back. There's not a doubt in my mind. But anyway, how the fuck did I get on that track? Anyway, it's okay to make mistakes thing with my brother. I don't know. See, I feel like I woke up and did some writing this morning. Then I kind of recuperated for a little bit, chilling in the chair, and like we haven't gone to a walk yet. And I was thinking we probably wouldn't, but I'm thinking we probably will now that I'm getting this out of my system. But I feel like this is just kind of an expansion on what I was thinking of first thing this morning, and didn't really get all of organized. You know, and then I'm gonna have to go through it and like kind of. Well, obviously I got to watch the video to figure out what I'm going to call the video. And then all that fun stuff. Let's see how it fits in with the stuff I was writing about. And if I can organize more thoughts on the conversation to take to group tomorrow. Yeah, I've mentioned before, like, I watched something that was talking about how, like, especially if there's a lot of childhood trauma, then it's really hard to break away from like clutter. And it's like, I mean, I've shown you my fucking clutter several times. Not today so much, but I mean today's, well, haha. This is mainly, I have a whole bunch of laundry I need to put up. But I also need to go through this box and figure out what I can burn, and the box of pictures, and see what's going to be burned there. And here's some like summer clothes. So yeah. But like, in general, if you have a lot of like trauma in your history, then you tend to like hang on to stuff. And what I've realized is, like, on this whole, as I heal a little bit, and then I do a bunch of like clutter clearing, and then it makes space to do some writing, and then it makes space to start going through some more healing stuff and do some more clutter clearing. It's like, it's all so tightly connected, and they go like deeply hand in hand. And it's like, I can't, okay, as much clutter as I have in here right now, it's not near as much as I did have. I cannot tell you how many boxes I have gone through, how many like boxes of shit that has gotten burnt, to get it out of my space. Things that I finally just was able to, I finally was just like, fuck it, get it to Goodwill, get it out of here in a hurry, right? Usually with the better clothes, if there's a bunch of them, I try to take them to somewhere better to donate to, but Goodwill's close and at least works in a hurry. But like at one point, when I was with my ex, I think it was probably when he was in Germany for job training, and I was still at the group home, working there. I went through and collected like 13... Well, okay. It was over a dozen bags of those like 13-gallon trash bags. That's where the 13 is. I don't know how many actual bags there was, but over a dozen of them that I just filled with stuff from the closet that's like, if I have not worn this for the past 10 years, chances are I'm not going to wear it. If I have it just because somebody got it for me and made me feel bad about getting rid of it, so I just put it in the closet because I didn't want to have to feel bad either. It's like, chances are I'm not going to wear it. So I finally went through, like when I was at the group home, and just took all these bags of clothes and let all the clients go through them, and everybody, like everything that I took in there, somebody took, like whether it was staff or clients, because there were like 8 clients, men and women, and then whatever of the staff. It's like, y'all want it, take it, get it out of my space. I am tired of hanging on to it, because I was literally like standing on mounds of clothes, just like trying to get into my closet. It's like, this is stupid. I don't want all this shit, and I get how that is basically a trauma response, because it's like the dissonance in your system, like the chaos on my fucking walls, right? It's like I needed to see it outside of my system before it made it okay to start releasing other things and really being able to let go. And clearly my family is still not they're not a fan of the fact that I'm doing any of this. I was kind of wondering earlier, it's like, I wonder if I'm even going to be able to go through and do all the clutter clearing here, or if I'm going to take a certain amount of it with me to, to the next place, which I'm pretty sure is Philadelphia. Like whenever I'm ready to shift out of here, like for good, because for good, get me the fuck out of here. I'm ready to be done. Because, I've talked a lot about how I do so much clutter clearing and the emotional healing, and then it's like I just stop for a while. And then I've kind of also noticed that where I clear out stuff, it's like my family's stuff still keeps creeping in and trying to impose itself in my space. So it's kind of like the clutter also serves as a bit of a barricade between my stuff and their stuff, because at least if it's mine, then it can go with me and I can get rid of it at the next stop if need be. But like, my mom got a new washer and dryer, right? And it was so big. So just because we both had laundry to do, because everybody wears clothes and needs to wash them once in a while, it was like, the washer is so big. Do you have any of this stuff to put through? And then, we just start doing it that way. We'd split the effort on doing laundry. But then it got to a point where it's like, okay, first off, I would rather my stuff smell like detergent than like it didn't get washed out real good, right? And they don't use this, like, okay, I like the fragrances Gain comes in, so there's usually some of that in there, but they got like these real cheap off-brand like detergent packages that they would throw in. It's like, I don't think those get all the stink out of it. The other day when I got my clothes done this past time around, see, my mom had started her laundry, and then, she has the tendency that she'll fall off and forget, right? Because it might get around in the dryer once or twice. It usually takes a couple times before it's completely dry. But then like she'd stop on it, and then for a while I would kick the stuff in the dryer back up, and then I'd end up folding it and then get to whatever I had to wash or whatever. And it's like, I'm kind of tired of doing that. I don't want to do other people's stuff all the time. especially when it's literally transactional here anyway. It's like, since I did this for you, now you owe me something. And I will hold it over your head until you do what you're supposed to for me, right? And like cleaning the other day when my aunt and uncle came over. Since I had been talking on here for a while about I had a lot of stuff I needed to do, like I needed to clean my bathroom, I needed to clear out some of the stuff in the living room, condensed boxes anyway. It's like, since I had my stuff in the space and I knew my aunt and uncle were coming over, I was okay with having that little extra piece to motivate me to do the thing I already knew I needed to do, but I was dragging my feet about doing because that whole boundaries thing with the family. So I cleaned my bathroom and I cleaned the living room, like completely cleaned the living room. I mean, the boxes are organized by the dog crates now and not just all in the middle of everything in the living room. But which is another thing, those damn sheets that my mom wanted to hang on to got put on my skating shit yesterday. I noticed that just a little bit ago. Well, I'd seen her do it last night, but I didn't think anything of it until it really registered when I was in there last. It's like, son of a bitch. It's like, well, you know what? She obviously doesn't want it that bad, so it's just going to go in the Goodwill stuff because I don't care anymore. And if you're going to just put it in my shit, then that's not working out. So, yeah. But it's like they dump it with my stuff, so it becomes my problem, and that's literally how everything's been. Like, okay, like the stuff my dad took on from his family, right? And my grandma she had obsessive compulsive disorder and was all about the hoarding, right? And, at one point she had like 10 years worth of TV guides in a closet. It's like, TV guides aren't going to be good again, and it's in there in a closet, basically, like mouse bedding at this point, because, they can get in there and just like go through or tear stuff up. And they did, it's like, what's the point of holding on to that kind of shit? But my dad does the same kind of stuff. Like he took a bunch of stuff from my grandparents' house, like when they died, and just pitched it in the shed. So it's like, okay, so if you're just throwing it out there, it's literally just so it's somebody else's problem later. If you're going to throw it out there because you don't care if it gets broken, then what's the point of hanging on to it at all? And I don't want to go through everything like that. I'm sick of going through everything like that. But then going back to the cleaning thing, I worked on the living room and the bathroom, right? Which they stay out of my bathroom for the most part. My mom did give Gracie a bath in there the other day. But, and she was going on about, oh, the bathroom looks wonderful and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, don't get cocky. Don't go in there again. Don't start using my space. But they still haven't done anything to clean the rooms that I don't go in. It's like, it's literally just waiting on me to get tired of it being disgusting so I do something about it. And I don't want to do anything about their shit anymore. And okay, so the cleaning thing, I get these rooms clean, right? And then, because I made a smart-ass remark in front of my aunt, because they didn't do anything on the family room or the kitchen or the bathroom in there, which is literally the rooms that the guests use. Now, if they would have brought them in the front door and seen that that room was clean, they could have chosen to sit in there, but they did not. And my mom knew it was clean. She just didn't give them the opportunity to see it was clean. So, I made a comment. My mom's pulling stuff off the table. I could tell when she went to my brother's house to meet my aunt and uncle over there, which my sister-in-law and my brother did not know they were planning to go over there as well. So they were like, it was just to see what we're getting rid of it. And it's like, probably. But when she left, she thought I was going to clean up the rest of the space. I didn't. I did a video. But she didn't know I do videos. But that's okay. She doesn't need to know I do videos. She'll find out and be pissed enough at me later, and I don't give a shit because I won't have anything to do with the family anymore at that point. But when she got back and it wasn't any cleaner than it had been when she left, Oh, she was pissed. I mean, you could tell. Like, she brings them in the garage to show them how shitty the garage is because they're getting rid of the camper. So they pulled everything out of the camper and put it in the house so they could take pictures of the camper so they could post it, which they haven't done yet either. Which the camper was going to Camping World for them to sell, but then ended up not working out because it apparently had something that had been repaired and they put rebuilt on the paperwork. So Camping World said, no, don't want that. So yeah. But I made a smart ass remark when she was pulling stuff off the table and just putting it in a box. I said, man, it is a shame we didn't know company was coming. Like when she was vacuuming the damn, it's windy out there. I think it was just the wind. When she was vacuuming the dryer vent at midnight the other night before they came over. It's like she didn't clean anything else, but she vacuumed the lint trap. It's like, well, I'm glad we're doing the important stuff. And then left it plugged in over the stove and in the other room. So I don't think they know what they're talking about. I'm going to shut this door just in case. Yeah, the car's still gone, so I can't imagine. But anyway, I made that comment, and you can be damn sure she took the opportunity to play the victim card again to my aunt when I went in the other room and was eating. And well, my family, that the particular time was on the cleaning end. She said she doesn't do anything to help out around here unless I ask her to. It's like, interesting. It's like, no, that was the opportunity. It's like, okay, they're coming, so obviously this is motivation to do the thing that I already knew I had to do. But see, that I remember when I was growing up, I would get to a point where I would get sick of the clutter and get ready to like clean my room, and then it was like she had a radar and knew exactly when I was getting ready to do that, and she would walk in and say, you really need to clean this up. Just so I would get to that point. It's like, now I can't do it. Why did you say anything? I was getting ready to do it, but now you opened your mouth, so I can't do it. You know, it literally stopped me for like a long time because she'd said something. So it's like, yeah, you just want to prove to everybody you're in control, but you're not in control. You just would like to act like you are and show everybody else how much you are, but you're not. Especially now that I have boundaries and I'm pushing back. It's just really making me, I think, notice the scapegoating shit more and more as it comes up. Because, like that. It's like, I don't know. I was really impressed the other day when I told my brother about the two things from high school that were like the most, I mean, I've talked about them in videos before a lot. It's like they obviously were some kind of traumatic moments for me, and the one was the thing that made it so I have a really hard time with compliments in general because, my mom would call me in the room to say things like, you're a very pretty girl, but you don't act like it. And it was like, I was literally minding my own business and you just felt like pulling me in the room to say the mean thing. What the fuck? Fuck you. Or I don't think I ever got an I love you if it wasn't accompanied with, I'm your mother, so I always have to love you, but I don't like you. It was just like a whole lot of fuck you. And when I told my brother about that stuff the other day, he's like, damn, what a bitch. It's like, why didn't we talk about this shit sooner? It's like, literally, our family is why we didn't, because, honestly, yeah, she definitely pitted us against each other in a lot of ways. But it was usually through fear of making them look bad, kind of going back to my grandfather or my mother on that. Yeah, make either of them look bad, then all hell will break loose. But then at the same time, they want to know all your problems so they can basically make fun of you to other people, especially in the family. Use you as the example of don't fuck up like this fucker, and that kind of stuff. It's like, fuck all y'all. Oh, going back to my aunt. So I told her this stuff because I trust her, right? And today, as I was thinking about that in that conversation, it was kind of funny. Like, I saw, like, this kind of in my mind's eye kind of a thing. It was like my inner child is all excited about all these things that are finally starting to come together, sharing with her inner child, and she's excited because somebody else might actually get to have a life, even though we weren't allowed to along the way. But it's like I just had this little visual of, like, the inner child in both of us coming together and, like, yay, and being really excited about these things because, like, it's like God is leading this thing. So, like, there's this big picture, that, like, this big story that's being told through, my life and all this stuff. And, she's excited for that for me. And it's like, and kind of probably also largely wishing she had that ability on her own. But at least, I think if she's at least able to see somebody else that isn't locked into the bullshit like she's been locked into, then I definitely think she'll be happy for me all the same when things do start coming together. Probably not so much the stuff where I don't believe the same Jesus shit she does, but I feel like, universe can use that too, so however it chooses to do so, in whatever way is necessary for the life lessons she's here for as well. But yeah. Well, not bad for not planning on doing a video because I wanted to take a nap. But I think I'm going to revert back to gonna go ahead and walk the dogs after all, because, what is it? Oh, it's 4 o'clock. A little late. Not later than normal. I'm not gonna walk or skate today because it's been windy as hell all day, and the past 2 windy days of that is like, ugh, why are we still doing this? Although that said, yeah, I'll probably still walk them at the cemetery because I don't know what is happening at the school. Tuesdays are usually, I'm gonna say they're pretty busy over there. At least baseball, which I can avoid people on that end, but still just easier not dealing with people altogether. I don't know. I might drive down there and see what the elementary that I skate at's like. Maybe just walk a couple laps around it. Because that's usually a good half a mile anyway, if not more. And since I can only go left onto the road off of our driveway, so if I go to the cemetery, then it's just gonna help me on the way back because I have to go all the way around to come back. But yeah, it's not terrible. So, but yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. So as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.